So, welcome back. Agents of pollination, type of pollination, and the flowers. See, agents of pollination are of two types: biotic agents and abiotic agents. Biotic agents are generally animals, and abiotic are wind and water. See, pollination by animals generally called zoophily. Such flowers are called zoophilous. The insect, birds, ants, snails, snakes, bats, etc. are also participate in the pollination. Agents for pollination. And the concerned terms will be: pollination by insect is called entomophily. Such flowers are called entomophilous. By birds, ornithophily, and such flowers are called ornithophilous. Ants, myrmetophily, and such flowers are called myrmetophilous. Pollination by snails, malacophily, such flowers are called malacophilous. By snakes, ophiophyly, such flowers are called ophiophilous flower. Bats, chiropterophily, chiropterophilous flower. By wind and water, by wind is called anemophily, NEMO, anemophily, and such flowers are called anemophilous. By water is called hydrophily, and such flowers are called hydrophilous. So generally entomophilous by insects, ornithophilous flower by birds, myrmetophilous by ants, malacophilous by snails, ophiophilous by snakes, chiropterophilous by bats, anemophilous by wind, and hydrophilous by water. Say zoophilous, entomophilous, example peas, beans, legumes or leguminous plants. Ornithophilous, see bombax, Malaberica. Myrmetophilous by ants, castor. Malacophilous, chrysanthemum. Ophiophilous, Ophiophilous sandal, sandalum. Chiropterophilous, Adansonia. Anemophilous, wind by maize, paddy. Hydrophilous, Vallisneria. Hydrilla, then water hyacinth, hydrilla, etc. See, these are examples. Among them, insect pollination, wind pollination, and water pollination, which are all very important. See, agents of pollination, biotic and abiotic, and the examples through which the agents do pollination. Next is some adaptations will be there for different kinds of pollination, especially the flower as well as the plants have some adaptations to do pollination. So, what are the adaptations of anemophilous flower, entomophilous flower? adaptations of So here, first is the adaptations of endomophilous flower for pollination. How the pollinating agents are attracted by the flower. See, these are the following characteristics first. See, the pollination through insect is called endomophily. And such flowers are called endomophilous. They have the following adaptations. They have the following adaptations. Pollination through insect or by insect is called endomophily, and such flowers are called endomophilous. Such flowers are called endomophilous. They have the following adaptations. Just remember key points. First, the flowers are attractively colored. Flowers are attractively colored. Just to visit the flower by the insects. Flowers are attractively colored. Second one, if the flowers are solitary, single flowered, it is large. And if small, seen in clusters or groups as inflorescence, we can say. Third one, they possess scent or honey. They possess scent or honey, such flowers. Then the pollen grains are sticky or spinous. Sticky or spinous and small. The stigma is also sticky. Stigma is also sticky, branched or unbranched. Branched or unbranched. Then The flower that opens in the night or nocturnal. Flower that opens in the night are flowers that open in the night are colorless. See, the flowers that open in the night are colorless, may possess honey. See, some important key points in connection with the entomophilous flower. So you have to remember, the pollination through insect is called entomophily, and such flowers are called entomophilous. They have the following adaptations. The flowers are attractively colored in order to visit or not to attract by the insect for the pollination. If the flowers are solitary, it is large. If a single flower is there, the flower will be large in size. And if small, they are seen in clusters. They possess scent or honey, aromatic smell, or honey may be there. See, the pollen grains are sticky or spinous and small for gripping on the body of insects. They may be sticky or spinous. The stigma is also sticky than the pollen grains. So the stigma is sticky, branched or unbranched. The flowers that open in the night are always colorless and having aromatic smell, and maybe the honey present in them. And so these are the most important characteristic features of entomophilous flower. See, next is anemophilous flower. Adaptation of anemophilous. Anemophilous flower. Anemophilous flower. The pollination by winds is called anemophily. Anemophily, and such flowers are called anemophilous. They have the following adaptations. They have the following adaptations. They have the following adaptations. One by one. See, first is the flowers are not attractively colored. Attractively colored. Flowers are not attractively colored. The flowers are seen in clusters as inflorescence. So most probably flowers are seen in clusters. Then they have no scent or no honey. There is no need of these two because wind is the mediator, or wind is the agent for pollination. There is no need of the presence of scent or honey to the flower. Then the pollen grains are very small. Pollen grains are very small, dry, loose, light, and many. Pollen grains are very small as it is carried by the wind, and they are dry, loose, and light, weightless, and many. In grasses, the anthers are versatile. Versatile anther. Stigma is branched or unbranched, and sometimes feathery. In maize, grasses, sugarcane, generally in grasses. See, the most important characteristic features of anemophilous flower. The pollination by wind is called anemophily, and such flowers are called anemophilous. They have the following adaptations. Flowers are not attractively colored. There is no need of attraction. There is no need of coloration to the flower or flower lobes. Flowers are seen in clusters. Most probably they are very small, and moreover seen as clusters. They have no scent, no honey. No need of honey or scent for attracting the wind to the flower for pollination. The pollen grains are very small, dry, loose, light, and many. Very small, dry, loose, light, weightless, and many. In grasses, the anthers are versatile. Say example, paddy, versatile anther. So this is a paddy flower. Feathery. This is the pericarp, and this is versatile anther. It may be pendulant. A slight breeze is needed for rupturing, get ruptured from the filaments, and the mature pollen grains are collected in the packet like anther and carried by the wind. See, this is called versatile anther. Versatile anther, a characteristic feature of anemophilous flower in some grasses. So that is why we can say generally Flowers are not attractively colored. Flowers are seen in clusters. They have no scent, no honey. Pollen grains are very small, dry, loose, light and many. In grasses, the anthers are versatile. The stigma is branched or unbranched and sometimes feathery as in maize or sugarcane like grasses. So these are the important adaptations of anemophilous flower for their pollination. Generally you can see the pollination by wind is called anemophily. Such flowers are called anemophilous and they have these all important adaptations for doing the pollination by the agents. Okay. Next is hydrophilous. Flower. Here also pollination by water. Pollination by water is called hydrophily. And such flowers are called hydrophilous flower. So here epihydrophilous and hypohydrophilous flowers present. So in some according to some plants, the flowers are aquatic plants emerging their flower above the surface of the water level and they may pollinate by insect or wind. Whereas some plants are seen inside the water where inside the pollination takes place in the presence of water itself. See, suppose the hydrophilous flowers are of two types. Epihydrophilous and hypohydrophilous. Flower. Epihydrophilous flower, flowers emerging above the water level. Above the water level. Here insect or wind may do pollination. Hypohydrophilous flower, the flowers are developed inside the water. Here water is strictly needed for pollination. See, in epihydrophilous condition, flowers emerging above the water level, and here the insect or wind may do pollination. See, hypohydrophilus, hypo below, inside the water. The flowers are developed inside the water, are seen inside the water. Inside the water, here water is strictly needed for pollination. And then water lily, water hyacinth, are epihydrophilus, Vallisneria, hydrilla, zostera are hypohydrophilus. Zostera marina is a marine angiospermic plant. See, general account of hydrophilus flower. Pollination by water is called hydrophily, and such flowers are called hydrophilus. Flowers are called hydrophilus. The hydrophilus flowers are of two types, epihydrophilus and hypohydrophilus. In epihydrophilus plant or flower, the flowers emerging above the water level and insect or wind may participate in the pollination as the agents. You know, hypohydrophilus flowers are there. The flowers are seen inside the water. Here, water is strictly needed for pollination. The help of pollination. Help of water for pollination. Water lily, water hyacinth, or tar of Bengal, or Icornia are epihydrophilus. Points to remember. Vallisneria, hydrilla, zostera are hypohydrophilus. So these are some examples. Zostera marina is a marine angiospermic plant, marine flowering plant. And that is about hydrophilus general accounts. But here there is a part where the pollination takes place in Vallisneria. That is very important. Pollination in Vallisneria. Vallisneria is a rooted hydrophytic plant. rooted hydrophytic. Rooted hydrophytic plants. They are immersed in the water. Roots will be there at the bottom of the water in the soil, and the vegetative parts which are all immersed in the water. Brainiaria is a rooted hydrophytic plant. They are dioecious. That is, male and female plants are seen separately. Male and female plants are seen separately. Two key points. Brainiaria is a rooted submerged plant. Rooted hydrophytic plant, especially submerged plants. Submerged. They are dioecious. Male and female plants, symbol for male and female. Male and female plants are seen separately. Male plants. Male plant produces male flower. Male flowers. They are seen in clusters, inflorescence. Male flower is small, not very small, but small. Flowers, male flower is small, sessile, no pedicel, stalkless. Small, sessile, sessile. Two perianth lobes present. Three stamens are also present. Perianth lobes or tipples are coated with a waxy substance. Which male flower is small. Male plant produces male flowers. They are seen in clusters. Each flower is very small. They are sessile, having no stalk or pedicel. Stalk or pedicel. Two perianth lobes present. Three stamens are also present. Three perianth lobes present. Three stamens are also present. Perianth lobes or tipples are coated with a waxy coating. waxy coating or waxy substance which prevents from wetting. Prevents from wetting. See, these are the perianthropes. Three perianthropes with two stamens. Sorry, three perianthropes and two stamens are also present. Perianthropes, this is main flower. Tipple, stamen, male flower. That is about male plants, the male flower. Three perianthropes or tipples. The simple unit of perianth is tipple, and two stamens are there which are seen erect when they exposed. So this is about the male flower, male plants. Male plant produces male flowers only. They are seen in clusters. Peculiarity of male flower: it is very small, sessile, no stalk or pedicel. Three perianthropes present. Two stamens are also present. Perianthropes or tipples are coated with a waxy coating or a waxy substance which prevents from wetting. These are all about the characteristic features of male flower and male plants. Plants are dioecious. Male plant and female plants are seen separately. See, female plants. Female plant produces female flowers. Female flowers. They are solitary. Solitary means single flowered female flower. Female plant and female flower of Varistaria. Flowers are large than the male flower. Flowers are large. Flowers are large, solitary. Three perianthropes present. Epigynous flower. Ovary inferior. Long pedicel present. Long pedicel present. pedicellate, long stalk present. Flowers are large, 3 perianthropes present. Flowers are epigynous, where ovary is inferior, long pedicel present, hence they are pedicellate. These are the characteristic feature of what? The female flower. Then pollination takes place with the help of water. How it happens? See, Varicella is rooted, submerged or hydrophytic plants. They are dioecious. Male and female plants are seen separately. Female plant producing female flowers, they are solitary. Flowers are solitary. Female flower. Flowers are large, 3 perianthropes present, epigynous flower with ovary, where the ovary is inferior, long pedicel present. Pollination takes place at the surface of water. This is water surface. This is bottom of water. Then this is male plants, and flowers are seen clusters. This is female plants. Rooted submerged plants. This is water. Female flower is 3 perianthropes. 1, 2, 3. And this is the flower. Long pedicel present. The pedicel. This is epigynous flower. So how pollination is affected? When the male flowers attain maturity, they liberate from the plant and floating on the surface of the water. This is male flower. They are sessile. Waxy coating is there. That is why after the liberation from the male plant, they are coming at the surface of the water and floating in the surface of water as per the water currents. Flow of water currents, you know. Female flower is solitary and the flowers are epigynous and pedicellate. 3 perianthropes present. They come at the margin of the water when the flower attained maturity for pollination, and they come at the surface of the water. As per the winds, the new waves will be appearing at the surface of the water, so that through these waves the male flowers floating as per the direction of the what the winds. And so a number of flowers, male flowers, assembling around the female flower. A number of male flowers assembled around the female flower, which will be partially projecting from the water at their surface, their surface. So here a number of male flowers are encircling or surrounding or assembling around the female flower. One among them come in contact with the female flower, and gradually the pollination takes place. After pollination, the long pedicel coils so that the flower is drawn into the bottom of the water. They are drawn into the water by coiling after pollination only. Till then they are very straight. After pollination, the fertilization happens, and when the flower attained pollination, the pedicel coiled so that the epigonous flower is drawn towards the bottom of the plant. Bottom of the water, not bottom of the plant, bottom of the water. Then fertilization followed by fruit formation will happens, and that is the nature of pollination in Vallisneria. See, that is about this is female flower. Female plants, female flower. This is cluster, this is solitary, long pedicel present. This is water. That is about the pollination in Vallisneria. Then Cleistogamy. Cleistogamous flower. And cosmogamous flower. The flower that does not open and without opening the pollination, fertilization, and seed formation takes place. Seed formation takes place. Here autogamy takes place. Such condition is called cleistogamy, and such flowers are called cleistogamous. This condition is called cleistogamy, and such flowers are called clistogamous. That is about clistogamous flower. Flower never opens. Without opening, the pollination followed by fertilization, seed production, etc. done are all taking place. And a type of autogamy itself is taking in these plants, these flowers. And this condition is called clistogamy. And such flowers are called clistogamous flower. Whereas cosmogamous, in cosmogamous flower, the andrecium and gynoecium are projecting out from calyx and corolla. See, in cosmogamous flower, the andrecium male part, gynoecium female part, the essential whorls are projecting out from calyx and corolla. They are projecting outside the flower, projecting out to the flower. Projecting out from calyx and corolla, and this condition is called cosmogamy. Enough. In cosmogamous flower, the andrecium and gynoecium are projecting out from the calyx and corolla, or out to the flower. So here the pollination is easy. Why? Because whatever the agents, there is no problem. They will directly do the pollination and work out as pollinating agents freely. That is why they are called cosmogamous flower. In clistogamous flower, both the andrecium and gynoecium are keeping inside the flower. Autogamy also taking place. Then the plants in which clistogamous and cosmogamous flowers present. Viola, common pansy, oxalis and camelina. Viola, oxalis and camelina. Many times these examples are asked in your examination. So, in connection with the pollination, we can say clistogamous flowers and cosmogamous flowers are met within plant kingdom, especially angiosperms. The flowers that does not open, and without opening, the pollination, fertilization and seed formation takes place. Here autogamy takes place. This condition is called clistogamy. Such flowers are called clistogamous. Groundnut flowers are seen underground. The pericarp becomes hard when the fruit attained maturity. Pollination followed by fertilization, which are all taking place within the flower. In cosmogamous flower, the androecium and gynoecium are projecting out from calyx and corolla. Such flower. Both cosmogamous and clistogamous flowers are present in viola. Is also known as common pansy, oxalis and camelina. Remember please the examples many times asked in your examinations. See, listen please. Floral reward. What do you mean by floral reward? The animals come and visit the flowers to take either pollen grains or their honey if present, and moreover the aromatic smell of the flower or attractive color of the flower, these are all tempted the insects for visiting the flowers. During this visit, knowingly or unknowingly, the pollination takes place, and there is a helpful process for the plants for the formation of next generation. And that is why there is an indebtedness is there among the flowers and moths, or flowers and the insects or the mediators. So how it is affected? So for helping the pollination in the flower, insect has some benefits from them, from the plant also or flower also. That is called floral reward. A reward is given to the insect, those visiting and help in the pollination. How it happens? A small example. In pollination, the flowers have to provide rewards to the agents like animals. It is called floral reward. It is called a floral reward. By visiting the animals to the flower, means insect to the flower, their body gets a coating of pollen grains, and carrying them visit other flowers, and pollination is effected in second plant. That means thus flowers bring about pollination. A insect, when they visit the flower, they are wandering here and there for honey or anything else. During this time, the sticky or spinous pollen grains will be gripping on the body of that particular insect. Carrying them, knowingly or unknowingly, carrying them, they visit another flower, maybe of the same species. Then these pollen grains which are deposited to their body will be transferred to the transferred to the stigma of the second flower. Then pollination is, they bring about the pollination through that. See, plants like Amorphophallus, Dioscorea. See, Chena in Tamil, Chena, I don't know. Anyway, Amorphophallus, Dioscorea and Yucca plant provide floral reward to the animals that help in pollination. How and what? These plants provide safe places to lay their eggs in the flowers, and both these plants and insect cannot complete their life cycle without each other. See, the plants provide safe places to lay their eggs. So whenever they visit to lay their eggs, they will help to the pollination also. These plants provide safe places to lay their eggs in the flowers, And both these plants and insects cannot complete their life cycle without each other. Pollination is also done. See, the moth deposits its eggs in the locules of ovary of the flower and in turn gets pollinated by the moth. Example, yucca. So in yucca plant, the flower is or floral tube or corolla tube is very deep, and they come and deep in the flower, they are wandering suitable places for laying their eggs by the moth. The Tageticula eucacella, moth, the name of the moth not given in your textbook. Tageticula eucacella, the moth visiting the yucca flower for depositing their inquiring suitable place for depositing their eggs, laying their eggs. So the locules of the ovary is a suitable place for for them to lay their eggs. They lay their eggs while during this time the pollination is also naturally occurring in the presence of this moth. So pollination is done. At the same time, moth gets suitable place for laying their eggs, and the eggs are protected from the predators. So that's giving a protection. The larvae of the moth come out of the eggs as the seeds start developing. So they can feed the plant or flower or fruit can or seed can feed the larvae of the moth from the plants, and thus yucca plant and moth Tageticula eucacella. Yucca plant gives floral reward to them for helping in the pollination. They protect their young ones. They protect the young ones as well as the eggs, and that is why it is actually a floral reward. Okay. Then pollen robbers and honey robbers or nectar robbers. Pollen robbers and nectar robbers. Some insect visiting the flower for taking the pollen grains and go back their hives without visiting the other flowers. Without visiting other flowers. Such insects are called pollen robbers. See, the honey bees, then pollen, honey bees collect pollen grains or honey or nectar from the flowers. That you know, some insects visiting the flower and collect the pollen grains only from them, and without visiting other flowers they directly go back to their hives carrying these pollen grains. So they are called pollen robbers. And like that, some insects visiting the flower for taking the honey or nectar and go back directly their hives without visiting other flowers. Such insects are called pollen robbers. No, nectar robbers. So, like the pollen robbers, some insects visiting the flower for taking the honey or nectar and go back directly to their houses without visiting other flowers. Such insects are called nectar robbers or honey robbers. So those insects who take pollen grains and without participating pollination called pollen robbers. Like that, those insects which take honey and without participating the pollination, they are called nectar robbers or honey robbers. So that is about pollen robbers and nectar robbers. Next is outbreeding devices. So listen please. Whenever self-pollination, both autogamy or geitonogamy does not happen, the plants or flowers tempted to do cross-pollination. That means when autogamy or geitonogamy, like self-pollination does not happens, the flowers tempted to do outbreeding or crossbreeding. See, when autogamy or heterogamy like self-pollination does not happen, means failure. The flowers tempted to do outbreeding or crossbreeding. And so many outbreeding devices will be there. Say for example, some are the following. The outbreeding devices are the following. Then unisexuality. Monoecious. Dioecious. Monoecious, dioecious, dichogamy. Hercogamy. And self incompatibility. When autogamy or heterogamy like self-pollination becomes failure or does not happen, the flowers tempted to do outbreeding or crossbreeding. So many devices are there for this process, and some among them are the following. All the terms are not given, but we can go through these terms by which we can explain how or what the device is going on. Unisexuality, monoeciousness, dioeciousness, dichogamy, hercogamy, self-incompatibility, which are all some devices for outbreeding processes. Okay, then first is unisexuality. For pollination, two sexes are needed: male flower, female flower, androecium, gynoecium, stamen, carpel, anther, stigma, pollen grains, then stigma. The relationship, pollen pistil interaction is going on. For pollination, both male and female part are necessary. In unisexual flower, there is no chance for self-pollination of any kind. See, that is why if the flower is male, female is seen on other plants or other part of the plant, and in this case, cross-pollination is needed. See, in unisexual flowers there is no chance for self-pollination. It needs what? Outbreeding or crossbreeding. Second is monoeciousness. Both the male flower and female flowers are present in the same plant. In some cases, the heterogamy as well as autogamy become failure. Say a female flower is produced, so there may be then the male flower may be developed after few period. So the female part get decay whenever the male flower attained maturity. See, so that is why in some monoecious plants, when the autogamy as well as the heterogamy become failure, the flower should take outbreeding process. In dioecious plants, there is no chance for self-pollination because male plant and female plants are seen separately. Male plant, female plant are seen separately. That is why there is no chance for autogamy or heterogamy. So, in dioecious plants, strictly agent-oriental outbreeding or crossbreeding takes place. Dichogamy. Here, the maturation of male and female part of a flower, that is protandry and protogyny. Two conditions. Earlier maturation of andrecium than earlier maturation of andrecium than gynecium is called protandrous condition. Protandrous. Here, earlier maturation of gynecium than andrecium. Is called protogyny. Suppose this is stigma, this is anther. Pollen grains are formed, but it will not be deposited on them. No, pollen grains are deposited or received by this anther. Sorry, this stigma. Earlier maturation of andrecium than gynecium is protandrous. Protandrous condition. Here no deposition of mature anther to the stigmatic region as the stigma is not at all attained maturity. This condition is called protandry. Protandrous condition. Protandry. Then protogyny. So here you know this is stigma style, stigma anther. Anther is not attained maturity, but the pollen grains of foreign plants are deposited here, and it receives foreign pollen grains. Pollen grains of the same flower will not be developed. So here the stigma is attained maturity than the andrecium or the pollen grains or the anther. So you know this condition is called protandrous. This condition is called protogynous. Both in protandrous and protogynous condition, that is called dichogamous. Maturation in different times, though both are in the same plant, same flower. Okay, and this condition is called dichogamy, protandry, protogyny. Then hercogamy. So here you have to remember the gloriosa. So in some plants, this is female part, gynecium. This is corolla. stigma, this is calyx, pedicel, calyx, corolla, then gynoecium, androecium is there. One, two, three, 4, 5. See, this is male part, this is female part. Both are there, flower is bisexual, but androecium is far away from the position of carpels or gynoecium. And here also the geitonogamy or autogamy become failure, and this condition is called hercogamy. In plants like gloriosa, the male and female parts are far away from one another in their position, so that there is no chance for self-pollination or autogamy or self-autogamy or geitonogamy, and this condition is called hercogamy. See, next is self-incompatibility. In some plants, the tissue of this, so you know, this is stigma, this is pollen grains deposited on the stigmatic region. Pollen grains are deposited, but in some plants, the pollen grains, growth of the pollen grains does not allow through the tissue of the stigma. Pollen grains are there, deposition will be happened, but the germination of pollen grains does not allowed in the tissues of stigma of the same flower, and that is why the pollen grains are not at all developed, and pollination followed by fertilization does not happen. Pollination just formed, and in this condition they take foreign pollen grains. They suddenly, or that stigmatic region allowed them to grow through stigma style ovary than the pollen grains of the same flower, and this condition is called self-incompatibility. They are not compatible, they are not matchable, so the pollen tube does not grow through the stigma of the same flower, and that is why they do cross pollination. And so when autogamy or geitonogamy like self pollination become failure, the flower is tempted to do outbreeding or crossbreeding. The important devices are the following: unisexuality, monoecious, dioecious, dichogamy, hercogamy, and self-incompatibility, which are all tempted the plants, are all some outbreeding devices. In unisexual flower, there is no chance for pollination. In monoecious plant, some autogamy or geitonogamy become failure. In dioecious plant, male and female are seen separately, separate plants. In dichogamous condition, maturation of androecium and gynoecium in separate times, and earlier maturation of androecium than gynoecium, protandry. Earlier maturation of gynoecium than androecium is protogyny. Both protogyny and protandry leads to the cross pollination. Hercogamy, though the female and male part are the same flower, their position is far away from one another, there is no chance for self pollination, so tempted to do cross pollination. Example, gloriosa, not at all seen the other examples. Self incompatibility. In such plants, the stigmatic tissue does not allow the growth of the pollen grains through them, growth of the pollen tube through them, and that is why the pollination become failure, and foreign pollen grains of the same species may do, or they allowed to grow through the stigmatic region. and that is why it is called self-incompatibility. See, unisexuality, monoiciousness, dioiciousness, dichogamy, hercogamy, self-incompatibility, which are the outbreeding devices. Okay. So thus we know unisexuality, monoiciousness, dioiciousness, dichogamy, hercogamy, self-incompatibility. Next is pollen pistil interaction. Pollen pistil interaction. There is an attraction to the opposite sexes, not only in plants but in animals, that you know. And here also some chemical dialogue may be going on when the deposition of pollen grains on the landing platform of pollen grains, the so-called stigma. We know it is unknown. We know the interactions will be going on. See, all the events after the deposition of pollen grains, all the events after the deposition of pollen grains on stigma until the pollen tube enters the ovule, collectively called pollen pistil interaction. This is the ovule, embryo sac, egg synergids, polar nuclei, antipodals, micropyle. So the pollen grains are deposited here, and enlarged view. See, this is stigma, style, ovary wall, micropyle, pollen tube. Etc. This is thalamus. That already you know the parts. This is pollen grain. So listen, all the events after deposition of pollen grain on stigma until the pollen tube enters the ovule collectively called pollen pistil interaction. So we know in the nature different kinds of plants, different kinds of pollen grains and stigmatic regions. But you have to know the interaction will be going on, takes place, it will be going on through only the same species. Pollen grains of a mango tree or mango flower never pollinate with the coconut flower. So the coconut, suppose a jack tree very near to the cedium or guava, the flowers are there, but they will not participate in pollination. So only the same species, genetically may or may not be different, but the species may be same, and otherwise it is artificial pollination or artificial deposition of the pollen grains. Naturally, the pollen grains of the same species may participate in such processes. So here you know all the events after deposition of pollen grains on stigma until the pollen tube enters the ovule collectively called pollen pistil interaction. So this is the pistil or carpel having stigma, style and ovary, and this is ovary wall, thalamus, micropyle. So at the time when pollination is affected, the synergid cells, antipodals, egg synergid, may produce finger-like outgrowths towards the micropyle. Which this is called a filiform apparatus. Finger-like outgrowth. That is filiform apparatus. So here the anther producing pollen grains deposited on the stigma, passing through style, then through ovary wall and to micropyle, filiform apparatus enters embryo sac, egg and secondary nucleus. See, directly or through the agents, the deposition of pollen grains will be happened at the stigmatic region, the landing platform of pollen grains of the female part, stigma. And if it is matchable or compatible, the germination of pollen grains takes place through a chemotropic process. The chemical substances that present inside the tissue of the stigma tended to or lead to the growth further of the pollen tube through stigma, tissue of the stigma, then style, and through the ovary wall, finally reaching the thalamus region, especially at the micropylar region of the ovule. And during this time, the synergids, one of the synergids may produce certain finger-like structure called filiform apparatus towards the micropyle, which guides the entry of pollen tube into the embryo sac. And so all the events after deposition of pollen grains on the stigma until the pollen tube enters the ovule. So from here, you know the part of ovule. Micropyle, filiform apparatus, embryo sac, and finally enter into egg and secondary nucleus. So here the tube nucleus, pollen tube contains tube nucleus, generative nucleus, which divides into two sperms or sperm cells. So two-celled condition. Pollen tube growth. This is pollen tube. Pollen tube carries tube cell at its free end inside and generative nucleus followed by them. So the tube nucleus will be disintegrated when the tip of the pollen tube come in contact with the what? The filiform apparatus. The point of attachment get dissolved, so the direct communication takes place with the embryo sac and pollen tube through filiform apparatus. See, that is why we know the two sperms or sperm cells, one gliding towards the egg where fertilization happens, the fusion of male and female gametes, and the other sperm glides to the embryo sac. The two polar nuclei fuse to form a secondary nucleus or definitive nucleus with a sperm cell, and so two fusion takes place. Fusion is fertilization, double fertilization takes place. So in double fertilization, triple fusion is also there. The fusion of three nuclei, two polar nuclei and a sperm nucleus. Other is the egg and the sperm cell coming through the pollen tube. And so that is why we know all the events after the deposition of pollen grains on the stigma until the pollen tube enters the ovule, collectively called pollen pistil interaction. As a result, the sperm nucleus in the pollen tube directly enters into the embryo sac and double fertilization happens, so that egg becomes zygote, polar nuclei come secondary nucleus or definitive nucleus with the sperm nucleus to form the pen or primary endosperm nucleus. So at a time, double fertilization takes place in angiospermic plants, and the beginning is the deposition of pollen grains on the stigma, that is called pollination. So pollination followed by whatever the events up to the entry of pollen tube into the embryo sac, collectively called a pollen pistil interaction. Okay. Next is artificial hybridization. It is a crop improvement program by which so it is the duty of the agriculturists and the government to maintain the deterioration caused by the increase in population by the productivity of plants, both cereals and millets or other vegetables for the quality of the society. So that you know, quality and public health of the society, that you know. And here artificial hybridization, producing hybrids. See, it is a crop improvement program by which qualitatively and quantitatively high yielding varieties of plants can be artificially produced. High yielding plants can be artificially produced with a disease resistant capacity, high productivity, then pest resistant capacity, then stress conditions resistant capacity, which are all beneficial for the better yielding of the products produced by these plants. And it involves so many steps that can be seen in the next chapter, that you know, the plant breeding or strategies for enhancement in food production. What are the strategies for that you can see in the next chapter. So wait please. Artificial hybridization involves so many steps. Among them some are given. So this is parental selection. Two steps are there given. Emasculation, then bagging, some techniques will be there. Emasculation, the process of removal of male part from a bisexual female parental flower. In the flower buds to avoid self-pollination. is called emasculation. So what is emasculation? So the parental plants, male parents and female parents, from where the pollen grains are collecting for hybridization, it is considered as the male parents. So which parental plant is used for deposition of pollen grains or receiving the pollen grains is called female parental plant. The flowers of the female parental flower is bisexual. If it is bisexual, strictly the emasculation is needed for artificial hybridization. So the process of removal of male part from a bisexual female parental flower in the flower buds to avoid self-pollination is called emasculation. So emasculation prevents the self-pollination in such plants. Suppose this is a female plant, this is male plant. Here flower is there, only male part. This is the female plant. If it is bisexuality, flower is bisexual, the male part is removed before the flower opens. Autogamy may takes place when the flower is emasculation done after opening of the flower, may be taking place, possibility, and that is why in the flower bud emasculation will be needed to avoid surface. So the process of removal of male part from a bisexual female parental plant, this is male parental plant, this is female parental plant, flower, female parental flower in the flower buds to avoid self-pollination. Emasculation is avoiding self-pollination in female flower. If it is unisexual, the female parental flower is unisexual, there is no need of emasculation. There is no such kind of emasculation. Next is bagging. So the plastic or polythene bags are used to cover the male and female reproductive part of selected parental plants. Is called bagging. Bagging in male flower is to collect the pollen grains without any loss. Then bagging in female flower is to avoid cross pollination with unknown pollen grains. bagging in female flower is to avoid cross-pollination with unknown pollen grains. So that is for bagging in male and female flower. Bagging in male flower is to collect the pollen grains without any loss. Bagging in female flower, parental flower, is to avoid cross-pollination with unknown pollen grains. Then rebagging is also needed. It is needed in female parental flower. Parental flower rebagging is needed in female parental flower after pollination to avoid pollination by unknown pollen grains. See, so listen please once again. Artificial hybridization is a crop improvement program by which qualitatively and quantitatively high yielding varieties of plants can be artificially produced. It is actually a crop improvement program. It involves various steps. Among them, 3 are given. They are emasculation, bagging and rebagging. So see, emasculation, the process of removal of male parts from the bisexual female parental flower in the flower buds to avoid self-pollination is called emasculation. Bagging, see, the plastic or polythene bags are used to cover the male or female reproductive parts of selected parent plants is called bagging. Bagging in male flower is to collect the pollen grains without any loss. Bagging in female flower is to avoid cross-pollination with unknown pollen grains. Selected parent plants will be there, male and female. Then rebagging is needed in female parent flower only. It is needed in female parent flower after pollination, after artificial, to avoid pollination by unknown pollen grains. We know the selected some pollen grains may be growing in a great speed than the selected parental pollen grains, and that is why after pollination rebagging is needed. Okay, so emasculation, bagging and rebagging are some steps in connection with artificial hybridization. Okay.